Mukherjee Nagar uprising. Students take a stand for safety. Mukherjee Nagar, a hub for student aspirations, is now a beacon of protest. Students are angry. They are demanding justice. A coaching center fire tragedy shook their world. It exposed the dark underbelly of an education system that puts profits before safety. The students refuse to be silenced. They are raising their voices. They want a safer future for themselves and for generations to come. This is their story. The basement reality: cramped, hazardous, and untenable. Imagine this. You're a student, eager to learn. You have dreams, aspirations, and a burning desire to succeed. You walk into what you hope will be a place of enlightenment and growth. Instead, you enter a dimly lit basement. The walls are cold and uninviting, and the atmosphere feels more like a dungeon than a classroom. The air is thick with humidity, making it hard to breathe. You can almost feel the moisture clinging to your skin. The only source of light is a flickering bulb, casting eerie shadows that make it difficult to focus on your studies. You're crammed into a tiny space with dozens of other students, all vying for a spot to sit and a chance to learn. This is the reality for many in Mukherjee Nagar, where the demand for education has outstripped the supply of safe, adequate learning spaces. Basements, often damp and poorly ventilated, have become the norm for coaching classes. These makeshift classrooms are far from ideal. Cramped spaces are not just uncomfortable. They are a daily struggle for students who are trying to concentrate and absorb information. They are breeding grounds for disease. The close quarters and lack of sanitation make it easy for illnesses to spread. The lack of proper ventilation can lead to respiratory problems, exacerbating the already stressful conditions. Fire safety is often overlooked. In these cramped basements, the risk of a fire turning into a deadly disaster is high. Narrow staircases and blocked exits pose a serious threat in case of emergencies. The escape routes are often inadequate, putting lives at risk. The recent tragedy is a stark reminder of the dangers these basement classrooms present. It highlights the urgent need for reform and better safety measures. It's a grim reality check for a system that has failed to prioritize student safety. The students, who are the future of our nation, deserve better. They deserve safe, healthy, and conducive environments to learn and grow. A cry for accountability. Where were the authorities? The Mukherjee Nagar tragedy has exposed a systemic failure. This incident has brought to light the deep-rooted issues within our educational infrastructure and the glaring negligence of those in power. Where were the authorities when these coaching centers were operating in unsafe conditions? These centers, which are supposed to be places of learning and growth, have turned into potential death traps. Why were no actions taken despite numerous complaints? Students and parents have repeatedly voiced their concerns, yet their pleas have been ignored. The blame game has begun. Officials are quick to point fingers, but this is not the time for deflection. It's a time for introspection and accountability. But the truth is, everyone is responsible. From the highest echelons of government to the local community, everyone has a role to play in ensuring safety. The authorities, the coaching center owners, and even the landlords all have failed the students. Each party had a duty to ensure the safety and well-being of the students, and each has fallen short. Students had raised concerns about the lack of fire safety measures. They pointed out the fire hazards, the overcrowded classrooms, and the lack of emergency exits. Their complaints fell on deaf ears. The authorities, who should have been the first to act, chose to ignore the warnings. The authorities turned a blind eye to the blatant violations. They walked past the dangers, choosing to prioritize other matters over the safety of the students. The coaching centers, driven by profit, ignored the risks. They continued to enroll more students, packing them into unsafe spaces without a second thought. The landlords, complicit in this dangerous game, continued to rent out unsuitable spaces. They prioritized their income over the safety of the students. This tragedy is a result of their collective negligence. The loss of lives is a direct consequence of their failure to act. The students are right to demand accountability. They deserve answers. They deserve justice. They deserve to know why their safety was compromised. The authorities must investigate and punish those responsible for this tragedy. There must be a thorough investigation to uncover the truth and hold those accountable. This includes corrupt officials who may have accepted bribes to turn a blind eye to the violations. Corruption has no place in our society, especially when it endangers lives. This cannot be another case of justice delayed and denied. The students and their families deserve swift and decisive action. This is not the time for empty promises and hollow apologies. Action must be taken. The authorities must show that they are serious about making changes. The authorities need to implement stricter regulations. They need to ensure that such tragedies never happen again. They need to ensure that all coaching centers adhere to safety standards. Regular inspections and strict enforcement of regulations are essential. They need to prioritize the lives of students. The safety and well-being of students should be the top priority for everyone involved. This tragedy should serve as a wake-up call. It should remind us all of the importance of vigilance and responsibility. We cannot afford to lose more lives because of our negligence. The time for change is now. We must act to ensure that such a tragedy never happens again. A sea of flickering hope. The Candlelight March. In the wake of the tragedy, a sea of flickering candles illuminated the streets of Mukherjee Nagar. The soft glow of each candle represented a life, a story, a hope that was lost too soon. The community came together, united by grief and a shared sense of purpose. Thousands gathered to mourn the lost lives and demand justice for the victims. The air was thick with emotion as people from all walks of life stood shoulder to shoulder, their faces illuminated by the gentle light of the candles they held. Each flame was a silent protest, a call for change. This Candlelight March was more than just a show of solidarity. It was a collective outcry against the systemic failures that led to this tragedy. The marchers carried banners and signs, their messages clear and unwavering. It was a powerful statement against the apathy and negligence that led to this tragedy. The voices of the participants, though soft, carried the weight of their demands. They chanted slogans, their words echoing through the night, demanding accountability and justice. It was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable loss. The faces in the crowd were a mix of sorrow and determination. Tears were shed, but there was also a steely resolve to ensure that such a tragedy would never happen again. Students, parents, teachers, and concerned citizens marched together. The diversity of the crowd was a testament to the widespread impact of the tragedy. Young and old, rich and poor, all were united in their grief and their call for justice. They held banners, chanted slogans, and demanded accountability. The messages on the banners were poignant and powerful, each one a reminder of the lives lost and the need for change. Their voices, united in grief and anger, echoed through the streets, sending a clear message: enough is enough. The chants grew louder, a chorus of voices demanding justice and change. This tragedy has shaken the conscience of the nation. It has brought to light the deep-seated issues that plague our society, forcing us to confront the uncomfortable truths about our priorities and values. It has forced us to confront the uncomfortable truth about our priorities. The faces in the crowd reflected a deep sense of introspection as people grappled with the reality of the situation and the need for change. The Candlelight March was a symbol of hope amidst the darkness. It was a reminder that even in the face of tragedy, there is always hope. The light of the candles pierced through the darkness, a beacon of hope for a better future. It showed that even in the face of tragedy, there is unity. There is strength. The crowd, though diverse, was united in their purpose. They stood together, their candles held high, a symbol of their collective strength and determination. There is a collective determination to fight for a better tomorrow. The faces in the crowd were filled with resolve, a determination to ensure that the lives lost were not in vain. It was a powerful reminder that change is possible, but it requires action. The signs and banners carried by the marchers were a call to action, a reminder that change is within our reach if we are willing to fight for it. It requires us to hold those in power accountable. The marchers pointed fingers, their signs demanding accountability from those in power. They were determined to ensure that those responsible were held to account. This march was just the beginning. It was the first step in a long journey towards justice and change. The crowd moved forward, their steps filled with purpose and determination. The fight for justice has just begun. The speeches at the vigil were filled with emotion, a call to action for all those present. The students in particular were determined to ensure that their voices were heard. The students, empowered by the support of the community, are determined to bring about change. They held their candles high, a symbol of their resolve and determination. They will not rest until they see concrete action taken to ensure the safety of all students. This is their promise. This is their legacy. The students raised their fists, a pledge to continue the fight for justice and change. Their faces were filled with determination, a promise to ensure that the lives lost were not in vain.